Okay, we're going to talk today about the preparing the kitchen for Pesach, which in many places either everything is covered up with aluminum foil, or they basically burn down the kitchen, or some people have, I know today, they have a special Pesach kitchen built in the house where they start cooking weeks before Pesach, or another solution is just close the house, sell everything, and leave. But the truth, right?
Talking about closing the house, how many days in advance you have to leave the house before Pesach?
You could leave. You could leave an hour before Pesach. It doesn't matter. No, you have to do the mechirat hametz, sell the hametz, and leave the house when the prohibition on eating hametz is valid, which is about midday, the erev Pesach. So let's talk about the koshering the kitchen or anything in the house for that matter. So the rule of thumb is kebol'oken polto. The way the flavor is absorbed, so it is released. So the whole thing about making a dish or anything kosher for Pesach is it's about the flavor which is absorbed in that dish or utensil or appliance or whatever it is. So assuming that something is absorbed, you also have to go to the next step and think how it is going to be released to another food. So let's take the example of the countertop, right? How would hametz flavor would be released into the countertop if you poured on it hot pasta water, right? So it's hametz water, hametz liquid spilled on the countertop. Good, but in order for that flavor that we assume is there to be released into the next item of food, you have to put hot food, almost boiling food on it, because the heat is what releases the flavor, and then that trace of flavor that was absorbed in the countertop would be released into that food, and that is assuming that if a hot piece of meat would fall on the counter, you would eat it as is without washing or without cleaning or anything, right? But beyond that, there's something which is much more important, and that is the simple test to see if something absorbs or not. So this test has been conducted. It's been conducted by scientists. Rabbi Dr. Dror Frixler in Israel wrote an article on that. He did all the experiments to see how much flavor is absorbed in dishes, and he did it scientifically by extracting whatever he could extract from dishes after they were used, and looking for trace elements, whatever chemicals he could find there. He came to the conclusion that the amount of material absorbed in any dish after cooking is negligible. It's several zeros, after the decimal point. It's 0.000 something. That is a far cry from what the Gemara says, that when you cook something, up to a quarter or sometimes even a third is absorbed in the walls of the pot. And but he concludes in his article, he says we don't know exactly what is the concept of flavor that the rabbis refer to. Now that is, that statement stems out of course of caution. We're afraid to go against the grain of what we've learned and what we know. Because we grew up with the idea if you put something in a pot, a dairy spoon in a meat pot, you have to burn it, bury it in the ground, whatever, and never use it again, etc. So
because it has to be. So the principle is because it has to be perceptible by the human sense.
Right. So that the answer is like you're saying, it has to be something that you could feel with your own senses.
But with the chametz, they made a differentiation with the chametz that's what they.
No batel afilu be'elef.
Right, be'elef. Right.
Yeah, but that's hametz. Okay, so that's a good point. Hametz. So usually, if there is flavor, the flavor is overridden if you have a portion or ratio of 60-1. Meaning, if milk was mixed in a meat dish, right? The way to really measure it is by eating it. Right. So, but you're not going to eat it. Maybe it's not kosher. So the Shulchan Aruch says you could give it to a kefela, which is a chef. You give to a non-Jewish chef, and there's a long discussion there. But you could really rely on that person's assessment you tell him, eat it please, tell me if it has buttery or dairy taste, right? And he'll tell you. Why can you trust him? Because he doesn't want to hurt his reputation, and he knows that if you eat it and you feel the dairy taste, you will say, oh, you're not a good. How can you be a chef if you don't have this fine sense of taste? And the so that test of taste is valid. Only the rabbi said, because we don't exactly know how much taste was absorbed, let's go with the 60-1, because when you have a portion or a ratio of 60-1, the flavor for sure disappears within the greater mixture. So, but with hametz, the rabbi said ahad be'elef lo batil, not because of the taste. They said even if you have a mixture of hametz and non-hametz, where hametz is one portion and the non-hametz is 1,000, still it doesn't override the. I mean, the hametz is still present in the mixture, but that is only if the mixture, if that happened on Pesach. And because of two things. One, it's called davar shesh lo matirin. If you wait until after Pesach, it will be allowed. So there's no need to nullify it on Pesach. There's no damage that you will incur from it. Just put it aside, sell it, and after Pesach you could eat it. Also, because hametz is allowed all year round, la bedilei minu. So people are. The rabbis needed to create a greater fence around hametz, because this is something that usually is allowed, and only on Pesach it's not allowed. But all that is based on the assumption that flavor is released into the mixture, right? Now, I mentioned in the past, I wrote about that one thing that we have to take into account is that the dishes that we have today, and all of the materials that we use today in terms of metals, and even wood or earthenware, are much more advanced than the materials that people had in the past. Even when we talk about glass, today's glass, everything is of such high quality. What we use today in the kitchen in the past would be used only for the military industry. Actually, one of the leading factories in Israel, Soltam, right? They make pots and bullets. There's pots and bullets are made from the same material. They have high quality metals, non-absorbent, non-corrosive. Even I think since I was a kid, things have changed. We still had the utensils, cutlery. What you eat, you would put it in your mouth and you would taste the metal. Since then, it became stainless steel, became more ubiquitous. So that difference is important, because when we read the rulings of the rabbis, we have to ask what kind of dishes they were using. Is it the same dish that I'm using today? Definitely not. When they spoke about flavor being absorbed in the dish, they had the problem of you cook something and the flavor is transferred into the next dish. This doesn't happen today. And by the way, same problem or same issue with the laws of Shabbat, that I'm saying in parenthesis, I've seen people making tea and coffee in what is called kli sheni, second vessel, because they're afraid that the tea bag will be cooked. It's not cooked, and now it's going to be cooked with the water of the pot, and it's mentioned in the halacha. But the thing is, if you take a thermometer and check the temperature of what is called the first vessel, kli rishon, that you fill from the urn, and then pour it to another cup. Measure the temperature. Pour it to a third cup and a fourth cup. It will still be the same temperature. It doesn't lose anything, for two reasons. One, that at the time of the Mishnah, the water that they could keep warm on Shabbat was not that hot. They didn't have the means to keep something hot the whole Shabbat. They definitely didn't have the electric plata or blech that we have today. They talk about wrapping something in blankets to keep it warm. So how warm could it be? And then you pour it into a clay bowl, usually with thick walls, and it's porous, and then you pour it to another one. By the time it gets to the second vessel, it's really lukewarm. Not so with our dishes today. So we have to assess this whole halacha. Kli sheni is the same as kli rishon. If you really don't want to, if you really are concerned about cooking something in kli sheni, you have to pour the water and wait and really take measure the temperature. But there's no concern, because the tea is already roasted and so it's called baked. So it's called bishul and bishul harafiyah. But anyway, that's another issue. I'll go back to
The
the
temperature would be a bigger problem.
what?
Measuring the temperature would be a
Right.
bigger problem.
What? Because you can on Shabbat? No, you can do it on Shabbat. Oh, you do it not on Shabbat, but on Shabbat for mitzvah you can do it. Yeah.
Our problem is which is roasted.
Yeah.
But meat, nana.
So what? So that's another issue. The Gemara says very clearly that only things that are kalei bishul cannot be put in hot water. Kalei bishul is something that is cooked easily, and that is they say kulyasa ispenin. This is like fish jerky or adam l'hut. No problem. You put the meat in it. No problem.
They solve the problem by.
They make sense.
No, they have tea.
I know. That's what I said.
On the side.
No.
It's all cooked already.
It's a good wordplay in English. I said they make sense because the name the Iraqis give the tea essence, they drop the e. They say do sentence. So okay. Anyway, let's go back to Pesach and Kashrut in general. So the idea is all about the flavor that's absorbed in the dishes, right? So we don't need the scientific experiments in the laboratory. What we need, like Matthew said, is our own sense of flavor. So how do you check it? Very simple. Put flavor into your dish, the strongest flavor that you can. Clean it, remove the flavor, and then put something which is flavorless. And then see if the flavor from the previous dish came into the next one. So, take for example, make a dish, or make a nice mchluta, or mitbucha, or hot salad, of ghost peppers, habanero, jalapeno, just like the spiciest pepper you can find. Put spices, everything you want. Cook it, let it stand, traza, for hours on end, and then take it out, clean the pot the way you do regularly. You wash it with soap, okay. Now you take blend rice, no flavor, or pasta, because those are the things where you feel the flavor more than anything else, and cook it in the same pot and eat it. No spice. If you find spice, I'll pay for the pot. You will find no flavor, even with plastic dishes that maintain the color, they don't maintain the flavor if you wash it well. Once you could. So anything that you that does not absorb flavor, automatically has no problem of releasing the flavor into the next dish. So by that rule, any dish you have in your kitchen that is metal or glass or plastic, Pyrex, what other material you have? China. Right, China is important. China, Corel. People think that you can't make kosher China or Corel because they absorb. They don't absorb. When the rabbis spoke about ceramics, they call it keleheres. They spoke about clay. I don't know when was the last time that any of us saw a real clay utensil, unless we brought from Bogota with us some clay bowl soups, right? Soup bowls, but even them they were enameled and they didn't absorb. Take a Corel plate or Chinaware. Does it absorb flavor? It doesn't. Otherwise, you would feel the flavor of the previous dishes on it.
Food that actually gets stuck to
the pot.
Yeah, because
in the pot you have grime.
and you can't clean it.
Right. So let's first talk. Right. Let's talk further about the things that are washable: plates, cups. Well, I'll explain what he says.
No, expand my test. What you're saying all assumes that it's cleaned reliably each and every time. And
Right.
in the world, that's not so.
No, wait. So there are two types of dishes. I mean, there are the ones where there are no places for the residue or for the grime to settle. So plates, cups, goblets, pans, etc. I mean, not pans. Depends on what type. This is cleanable. Then you have pots and other utensils with handles, with screws, the top that you can't carefully clean. But the thing is that over time, even if you have, you look at what you have. If there's grime that accumulated, let's say around the handles, and you cannot remove it, with the constant use, that flavor, let's say that there is flavor there, that flavor is destroyed. It's not going to release something that is tasty into your food, and therefore it's batel. There's no problem with that. It's called ta'am lifgam. There's no flavor of hametz there anyway. Same like with the knife, the handles of knives, you could have that problem. Same thing. Once you clean it with detergent, especially if you run it through the dishwasher, the detergent of the dishwasher detergent is so powerful it destroys any flavor. So that applies to all pots, dishes, utensils. What else? KitchenAid, anything of the sort, anything that contains hot food, and later on you want to make it kosher for Pesach, you could do it. If it never contained hot food, if you only use it with cold food, it doesn't matter what material it is. Even if it's wood or earthenware, you can make it kosher for Pesach because it never had the chance to absorb. The other utensils that you have in the kitchen that do not come in contact with hot food, such as let's say a can opener or a peeler, or a kiddush cup. When we used to recall when we were kids, we used to do put all of them in hot water, the gala and all that. This is not necessary. I know it's traditionally it's hard to let go of it, but all this is not necessary. You put it in the dishwasher or the regular wash that you did after the last use, and you could use it for Pesach. You want to be on the safe side. Don't use it within 24 hours before the usage that you're going to have for Pesach. And then brings us also to the dishwasher. I've heard crazy things about the dishwasher. First of all, I know that people have 2 dishwashers at home. A lot of people have 2 dishwashers, one for dairy, one for meat. Some people have 3. One for Pesach, only meat, one for dairy, one for meat. Some have 4 in case they want to eat something not kosher. But okay, I'm joking. They don't have that. So first of all, you don't need 2 dishwashers. You could use the same dishwasher for dairy and meat, even at the same cycle. You could put dairy and meat dishes together and wash them. There's no problem with that. Even if it has leftovers on it. Why? Because the steam, the hot water, plus the detergent that you use destroy any flavor. Even if something would be absorbed in the plates, you could it goes away. There's no problem with that. Not that it goes away. It's not flavorable. It's not something that you want to eat. It's called tam lifgam again. So for Pesach, really you don't need to do anything with the dishwasher. Clear the basket if you want. Throw away the residue, and that's it. You don't have to put stones in it. I hear some people to say that you have to heat a stone. I don't know, by pouring hot water on it and then put it in the dishwasher and then run it on empty and then run it another. No need for all that. You could just use it regularly. Again, for the ritual, because people want to feel comfortable, I cleaned it. Yeah, okay, run it one time on an empty cycle and you'll be fine. But that is not necessary. One last item for today, we'll have to talk about more tomorrow, is the oven. The oven, and many modern ovens have a feature, self-clean. It might as well be self-destruction.
Exactly. Yeah.
Right. This is like, when you put the oven on self-clean, play the music of ton 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 ton, because it's going to self-destroy within 5 minutes. This is 5 seconds. I know from a friend that he told me that his repairman, who repairs appliances, says every Pesach he has calls all over town from people who put the oven on self-clean and it was destroyed because it gets to 550 degrees.
3 hours.
It's crazy for 3 hours. There's no need to do it. You clean the oven regularly, and to be on the safe side, put it on 400 degrees for 20 minutes, and you're done.
But with the self-clean cycle, you don't have to clean the grease that's inside.
Oh,
there.
even
It
without the
cleans it.
self-clean cycle, you don't need to clean the grease. Really, I just saying clean it for you to feel comfortable. But if you just put it on 400 degrees for 20 minutes, you're done.
Right.
Because whatever was there was burned. You don't need to do more than that.
So the heat kills it.
The heat, yeah, that's
And
it.
400 degrees for,
That's
for
the
20
reason.
minutes is enough.
And the funny thing is, kosher people who eat kosher on a regular basis rely on that concept of the fire destroying all the time when they eat liver, because we roast liver or we broil liver because the blood, we cannot eat the blood of liver. But wait a second, when you put it on the grill, all the blood drips into the grill. How can you eat it? Answer: it's consumed by the fire. The flavors of that blood that you're not supposed to eat is destroyed by the fire. Now, last thing.
I used to blowtorch my oven. That's what they told me to do, so that's what I did.
Yeah, that's I think Westinghouse and General Electric
Blowtorch.
promote that. Yeah, go ahead, do it. Come by,
Blowtorch.
come to Sears, right? Buy a new one. My nephew destroyed my mother's refrigerator like that. He opened the electric board inside the freezer and he cleaned it until all the secrets were burnt. Well, one more comment on that. People ask if you could convert dishes from Pesach, from Hametz to Pesach, why not from meat to dairy and vice versa? The answer is technically no problem. The only reason that we don't do it on a regular basis is the fear of getting confused and cooking meat and dairy together. Otherwise, there's no problem. And the Sephardic minhag really is to use those dishes that you don't need to convert through koshering, like glass, for both meat and dairy. So that is something to have in mind. Okay, we'll stop here. Baruch Adonai, L'olam Amen v'Amen.